People, I hope you're ready. I hope you have your water or your tea or anything. I do have my water. Hey, it's already at the help. Okay. And I do have my tea that it's freaking hot. We go with Hans Christian Andersen. Oh wow. We have the brave tin soldier. There were once 25 tin soldiers who were all brothers, for they had been made out of the same old tin spoon. They shouldered arms and looked straight before them, and wore a splendid uniform, red and blue. The first thing in the world they ever heard were the words "tin soldiers," uttered by a little boy who clapped his hands with delight when the lid of the box in which they lay was taken off. They were given him for a birthday present, and he stood at the table to set them up. The soldiers were all exactly alike, excepting one who had only one leg. He had been left to the last, and then there was not enough of the melted tin to finish him. So they made him to stand firmly on one leg, and this caused him to be very remarkable. The table on which the tin soldier stood was covered with other playthings, but the most attractive to the eye was a pretty little paper castle. Through the small window the rooms could be seen. In front of the castle, a number of little trees surrounded a piece of looking-glass, which was intended to represent a transparent lake. Swans made of wax swam on the lake and were reflected in it. All this was very pretty, but the prettiest of all was a tiny little lady who stood at the open door of the castle. She, also, was made of paper, and she wore a dress of clear muslin, with a narrow blue ribbon over her shoulder, just like a scarf. In front of this was fixed a glittering tinsel rose, as large as her whole face. The little lady was a dancer, and she stretched out both her arms and raised one of her legs so high that the tin soldier could not see it at all, and he thought that she, like himself, had only one leg. That is the wife for me, he thought, but she is too grand and lives in a castle, while I have only a box to live in, 25 of us altogether. There is no place for her. Still, I must try and make her acquainted. Then he laid himself at full length on the table behind a snuff box that stood upon it, so that he could peep at the little delicate lady, who continued to stand on one leg without losing her balance. When evening came, the other tin soldiers were all placed in the box, and the people of the house went to bed. Then the playthings began to have their own games together, to pay a visit, to have some fights, to give balls. The tin soldiers rattled in their box. They wanted to get out and enjoy the amusement, but they could not open the lid. The nutcracker played a leapfrog, and the pencil jumped about the table. There was such a noise that the canary woke up and began to talk, and in poetry too. Only the tin soldier and the dancer remained in their place. She stood on tiptoe with her legs stretched out as firmly as he did on his one leg. He never took his eye from her for even a moment. The clock struck 12, and with a bounce, up sprang the lid of the snuff box, but instead of snuff, there jumped up a little black goblin, for the snuff box was a toy puzzle. "Tin soldier," said the goblin, don't wish for what does not belong to you." But the tin soldier pretended not to hear. "Very well, wait till tomorrow, then," said the goblin. When the children came in the next morning, they placed the tin soldier in the window. Now, whether it was Whether it was the goblin who did it or the drought, it's not known. But the window flew open, and out fell the tin soldier, heels over head, from the third story into the street beneath. It was a terrible fall, and he came head downwards, his helmet and his bayonet stuck in between the flagstones, and his one leg up in the air. The servant maid and the little boy went downstairs directly to look for him, but he was nowhere to be seen, although once they nearly trod upon him. If he had called out, "Here I am," it would have been all right, but he was too proud to cry out for help while he wore a uniform. Presently it began to rain, and the drops fell faster and faster till there was a heavy shower. When it was all over, two boys appeared to pass by, and one of them said, "Look, there is a tin soldier. He ought to have a boat to sail in." So they made a boat out of newspaper, and placed the tin soldier in it, and sent him sailing down the gutter, while the two boys ran off the side of it, and clapped their hands. Good gracious, what a large waves arose in that gutter, and how fast the stream rolled on, for the rain had been very heavy. The paper boat rocked up and down and turned itself round sometimes so quickly that the tin soldier trembled, yet he remained firm. The countenance did not change. He looked straight before him and shouldered his musket. Suddenly the boat shot under a bridge which formed a part of the drain, and then it was as dark as the tin soldier box. "Where am I going now?" thought he. "This is the black goblin's fault, I am sure. Ah, well, if the little lady were only here with me in the boat, I should not care for any darkness." Suddenly there appeared a great water rat who lived in the drain. "Have you a passport? Asked the rat. "Give it to me at once." But the tin soldier remained silent and held his musket tighter than ever. The boat sailed on, and the rat followed it. How he did gnash his teeth and cry out to the bit of food and straw, Stop him, he has not paid toll and has not shown his pass." But the stream rushed on stronger and stronger. The tin soldier could already see daylight shining where the arch ended. Then he heard a roaring sound quite terrible, enough to frighten the bravest man. At the end of the tunnel, the drain fell into a large canal over a steep place, which made it as dangerous for him as a waterfall would be to us. He was too close to it to stop, so the boat rushed on, and the poor tin soldier could only hold himself so stiffly as possible, without moving a eyelid, to show that he was not afraid. The boat whirled around 3 or 4 times, and then filled with water to the very edge. Nothing could save it from sinking. He now stood up to his neck in water, while deeper and deeper sank the boat, and the paper became soft and loose with the wet, till at last the water closed over the soldier's head. He thought of the elegant dancer whom he should never see again, and the words of the songs sounded in his ears. "Farewell, warrior, ever brave, drifting onwards to thy grave." Then the paper boat fell into pieces, and the soldier sank into the water, and immediately afterwards was swallowed up by a great fish. Oh, how dark it was inside the fish! A great deal darker than in the tunnel, and narrower too, but the tin soldier continued firm, and laid at full length, shouldering his musket. The fish swam to and fro, making the most wonderful movements. But at last he became quite still. After a while, a flash of lightning seemed to pass through him, and then the daylight approached, and a voice cried out, "I declare, here is the tin soldier." The fish had been caught, taken to the market, and sold to the cook, who took him into the kitchen and cut him open with a large knife. She picked up the soldier and held him by the waist between her fingers and thumb, and carried him into the room. They were all anxious to see this wonderful soldier who had traveled about inside a fish, but he was not proud at all. They placed him on the table, and how many curious things do happen in the world! There he was in the very same room from the window of which he had fallen. There were the same children, same playthings, standing on the table, and the pretty castle with the elegant little dancer at the door. She still balanced herself on one leg and held up the other, so she was as firm as himself. It touched the tin soldier so much to see her that he almost wept in tears, but he kept them back. He only looked at her, and they both remained silent. Presently, one of the little boys took up the tin soldier and threw him into the stove. He had no reason for doing so. Therefore, it must have been the fault of the black goblin who lived in the snuff box. The flames lightened up the tin soldier. As he stood, the heat was very terrible, but whether it proceeded from the real fire or from the fire of love, he could not tell. Then he could see that the bright color were faded from his uniform, but whether they had been washed off during his journey or from the effects of his sorrow, no one could say. He looked at the little lady, and she looked at him. He felt himself melting away, but he still remained firm, with his gun on his shoulder. Suddenly, the door of the room flew open, and the draught of hair caught up the little dancer. She fluttered like a sylph right into the stove by the side of the tin soldier, and was instantly in flames, and was gone. The tin soldier melted down into a lump, and the next morning, when the maid servant took the ashes out of the stove, she found him in the shape of a little tin heart. But of the little dancer nothing remained, but those tinsel rose, which was burnt black as a cider. I didn't remember it like this. What do you mean? Good, I'm traumatized. What do you mean? Anyway, I hope new trauma unlocked for real. That hit harder than reading it alone. Damn. Well, I take it as a compliment. Can I say it? I do take it as a compliment. The Snowman by Andersen. It is so delightfully cold, said the snowman, that it makes my whole body crackle. This is just the kind of wind to blow life into me. How that great red thing up there is staring at me. He meant the sun, who was just settling. He shall not make me wink. I shall manage to keep my pieces. He had two triangular pieces of tile on his head instead of eyes. On his head instead of eyes. His mouth was made of an old broken rake, and was, of course, furnished with teeth. He had been brought into existence amidst the joyous shouts of boys, the jingling of sleigh bells, and the slashing of whips. The sun went down, and the full moon rose large, round, and clear, shining in the deep blue. There it comes again, from the other side, said the snowman, who supposed the sun was showing himself once more. Ah, I have cured him of staring though. Now he may hang up there and shine, that I may see myself. If I only knew how to manage to move away from this place. I should so like to move. If I could, I would slide along yonder on the ice, as I have seen the boys do. But I don't understand how. I don't even know how to run. Away, away, barked the old yard dog. He was quite hoarse and could not pronounce bow how properly. He had once been an indoor dog, and lay by the fire and had been hoarse ever since. The sun will make you run some day. I saw him last winter make your predecessor run, and his predecessor before him. Away, away, they'll all have to go. I don't understand you, comrade, said the snowman. Is that thing up yonder to teach me to run? I saw it running itself a little while ago, and now he has come creeping up from the other side. You know nothing at all, replied the yard dog. But then you've only lately been patched up. What you see yonder is the moon, and the one before it was the sun. It will come again tomorrow, and most likely teach you to run down into the ditch by the well, for I think the weather is going to change. I can feel such pricks and stabs in my left leg. I am sure there is going to be a change. I don't understand him, said the snowman to himself, but I have a feeling that he is talking of something very disagreeable. The one who stared so just now, and whom he called the sun, he's not my friend. I can feel that too. Away, away, barked the yard dog, and then he turned around 3 times and crept into his kennel to sleep. There was really a change in the weather. Towards morning, a thick fog covered the whole country round, and a keen wind rose, so that the cold seemed to freeze one's bones. But when the sun rose, the sight was splendid. Trees and bushes were covered with hoar frost and looked like a forest of white coral, while on every twig glittered frozen dewdrops. The many delicate forms concealed in summer by luxuriant foliage were now clearly defined and looked like glittering lace work. From every twig glistened a white radiance. The birch, waving in the wind, looked full of life, like trees in summer, and its appearance was wondrously beautiful. And where the sun shone, how everything glittered and sparkled, as if diamond dust had been strewn upon, while the snowy carpet of the hearth appeared as if covered with diamonds, from which countless light gleamed, whiter than ever the snow itself. This is really beautiful, said a young girl who had come into the garden with a young man, and they both stood still near the snowman and contemplated the glittering scene. Sumner cannot show a more beautiful sight, she exclaimed, while her eyes sparkled. And we can't have such a fellow in this as this in the summer time, replied the young man, pointing at the snowman. He's capital. The girl laughed and nodded at the snowman, and then tripped away over the snow with her friend. The snow creaked and cracked beneath her feet, as if she had been treading on starch. Who are these two? Asked the snowman of the young yard dog. You have been here longer than I have. Do you know them? Of course I know them, replied the yard dog. She has stroked my back many times, and he has given me a bone of meat. I never bite those two. But where are they? Asked the snowman. They are lovers, he replied, that will go and live in the same kennel by and by, and yawn at the same bone. Away, away. Are they the same kind of beings as you and I? Asked the snowman. Well, they belong to the same master, retorted the yard dog. Certainly people who were only born yesterday know very little. I can see that in you. I have age and experience. I know everyone here in the house, and I know there was once a time when I did not lie out here in the cold, fastened to a chain. Away, away. The cold is delightful, said the snowman. But do tell me. Only you must not clank your chain so, for its jar all through me when you do that. Away, away, barked the yard dog. I'll tell you. They said I was pretty little. I was a pretty little fellow once, Then I used to lie in the velvet-covered chair up at the master's house and sit in the mistress' lap. They used to kiss my nose and wipe my paws with an embroidered handkerchief, and I was called Amy, dear Amy, sweet Amy. But after a while, I grew too big for them, and they sent me away to the housekeeper's room. So I came to live on the lower story. You can look into the room from where you stand and see where I was master once. For I was indeed master to the housekeeper. It was certainly a smaller room than those upstairs, but I was more comfortable, for I was not being continually taken hold of and pulled about by the children as I had been. I received quite as good food, or even better. I had my own cushion, and there was a stove. It is the finest thing in the world at this season of the year. I used to go under the stove and lie down quite beneath it. Ah, I still dream of that stove. Away, away. Does the stove look beautiful? Asked the snowman. Is it at all like me? It's just the reverse of you, said the dog. He's as black as a crow, and has a long neck and a brass knob. He hits firewood so that fire sprouts out of his mouth. We should keep on one side or under it to be comfortable. You can see it through the window from where you stand. Then the snowman looked and saw a bright polished thing with a brazen knob and fire gleaming from the lower part of it. The snowman felt quite a strange sensation came over him. It was very odd. He knew not what it meant, and he could not account for it. But there are people who are not men of snow who understand what it is. And why did you leave her? Asked the snowman, for it seems to him that the stove must be of the female sex. How could you have such a comfortable place? I was obliged, replied the yard dog. They turned me out of doors and chained me up here. I had bitten the youngest of my master's sons in the leg because he kicked away the bone I was gnawing. Bone for bone, I thought, but they were so angry, and from that time I have been fastened with a chain and lost my bone. Don't you hear how hoarse I am? Away, away. I can't talk any more like other dogs. Away, away. This is the end of it all. But the snowman was no longer listening. He was looking into the housekeeper room on the lower story, where the stove stood on its whole 4 iron legs, looking about the same size as the snowman himself. What a strange crackling I feel within me, he said. Shall I never get in there? Is it an innocent wish? And innocent wishes are sure to be fulfilled. I must go in there and lean against her, even if I have to even if I have to break the window. You must never go in there, said the yard dog, for if you approach the stove, you'll melt away, away. I might as well go, said the snowman, for I think I'm breaking up as it is. During the whole day, the snowman stood looking in the in through the window, and in the twilight hour the room became still more inviting, for from the stove came a gentle glow, not like the sun or the moon. No, only the bright light which gleams from the stove when it has been well fed. When the door of the stove was opened, the flame darted out of its mouth. This is customary with all stoves. The light of the flames fell directly on the face and breast of the snowman with a redly gleam. I can endure it no longer, he said. How beautiful it looks when it stretched out its tongue. The night was long, but did not appear to the snowman, who stood there enjoying his own reflection and crackling with the cold. In the morning, the window panes of the housekeeper room were covered with ice. They were the most beautiful ice flowers any snowman could desire, but they concealed the stove. These window patterns would not thaw, and he could see nothing of the stove, which he pictured to himself as if he had been a lovely human being. The snow crackled and the wind whistled around him. It was just the kind of frosty weather a snowman might truthfully enjoy. But he did not enjoy it. How, indeed, he could enjoy anything when he was so sick? This is a terrible disease for a snowman, said the yard dog. I have suffered from it myself, but I got over it. Away, away, he barked, and then he added, the weather is going to change. And the weather did change. It began to thaw. As the warmth increased, the snowman decreased. He said nothing and made no complaint, which is a sure sign. One morning he broke and sank down to get altogether, and behold, where he had stood, something like a broomstick remained sticking up in the ground. It was the pole around which the boys had built him up. Ah, now I understand why he had such a great longing for the stove, said the yard dog. Why, there's a shovel. There's the shovel that is used for cleaning out the stove, fastened to the pole. The snowman had a stove scraper in his body. That was what moved him so. But it's all over now. Away, away, as soon as the winter passed. Away, away, barked the horse dog. But the girls in the house sang. Come from your fragrant home, cream time. Stretch your soft branches, willow tree. The months are bringing the sweet springtime, when the lark in the sky sings joyfully. Come, gentle sun, while the cuckoo sings, and I'll mock his notes in my wanderings. And nobody thought any more of the snowman. You put cuckoo again. I saw you. I saw you. Seriously, we're talking about melting snow in here. And it was reminding you to drink. It was important. You know what? You did it on purpose. I am sure about it. Anyway. Hmm. Now it's drinkable. Incredible. We do have one more story. You will never. I know that you went on Google and went like stories, fairy tales with the word cuckoo inside. Disclaimer. I'm tired because it's almost 10 p.m. here. I have a little bit of headache, and English is not my first language. So if I'm going to butcher a bunch of words, I am so sorry. Please be patient. Thank you. Let's go. We have the little match seller. It was terribly cold and nearly dark on the last evening of the old year, and the snow was falling fast. In the cold and the darkness, a poor little girl with bare head and naked feet roamed through the street. It is true she had on a pair of slippers when she left home, but they were not of much use. They were very. My Kindle said, "You're not using me. I'm sorry." It is true she had a pair of slippers when she left home, but they were not of much use. They were very large, so large, indeed, that they had belonged to her mother, and the poor little creature had lost them in running across the street to avoid two carriages that were rolling along at a terrible rate. One of the slipper she could not find, and the boy seized upon the other and ran away with it, saying he could use it as a cradle when he had children of his own. So the little girl went on with her little feet, naked feet, which were quite red and blue with the cold. In an old apron she carried a number of matches, and had a bundle of them in her hands. No one had bought anything on her the whole day, nor had any one given her a penny. Shivering with cold and hunger, she crept along. Poor little child, she looked a picture of misery. The fell on her long, fair hair, which hung in curls on her shoulders, but she regarded them not. Lights were shining from every window, and there was a savory smell of roast goose, for it was New Year's Eve. Yes, she remembered that. In a corner between two houses, one of which projected beyond the other, she sank down and huddled herself together. She had drawn her little feet under her, but she could not keep off the cold. And she dared not to go home, for she had sold no matches, and could not take home even a penny of money. Her father would certainly beat her. Beside, it was almost as cold at home as here, for they had only the roof to cover them, through which the wind howled, although the largest holes had been stopped up with straw and rags. Her little hands were almost frozen with the cold. Ha! Perhaps a burning match might be some good, if she could draw it from the bundle and strike it against the wall, just to warm her finger. She drew one out. Scratch! How it sputtered as it burned! It gave a warm, bright light, like a little candle, as she held her hands over it. It was really a wonderful light. It seemed to the little girl that she was sitting by a large iron stove with polished brass feet and a brass ornament. How the fire burned, and seemed so beautifully warm that the child stretched out her feet as if to warm them when yo the flame the flame of the match went out, the stove vanished, and she had only the remains of the half burned match in her hand. She rubbed another match on the wall. It burst into flame, and where its light fell upon the wall, it became as transparent as a veil, and she could see into the room. The table was covered with a snowy white tablecloth, on which stood a splendid dinner service, and a steaming roast goose, stuffed with apples and dried plums. And what was still more wonderful, the goose jumped down from the dish and waddled across the floor with a knife and fork in its breast to the little girl. Then the match went out, and there remained nothing but the thick, damp, cold wall before her. She lighted another match, and then she found herself sitting under a beautiful Christmas tree. It was larger and more beautifully decorated than the one which she had seen through the glass door at the rich merchant. Thousands of tapers were burning upon the green branches, and colored pictures, like those she had seen in the show windows, looked down upon it all. The little one stretched out her hand towards them, and the match went out. The Christmas light rose higher and higher till they looked to her like the stars in the sky. Then she saw a star fall, leaving behind it a bright streak of fire. Someone is dying, thought the little girl, for her old grandmother, the only one who had ever loved her, and who was now dead, has told her that when a star fell, a soul was going up to God. She again rubbed a match on the wall, and the light shone around her. In the brightness stood her old grandmother, clear and shining, yet mild and loving in her appearance. Grandmother, cried the little one, oh, take me with you. I know you will go away when the match burns out. You will vanish like the warm stove, the roast goose, and the large, glorious Christmas tree. And she made haste to light the whole bundle of matches, for she wished to keep her grandmother there. And the matches glowed with light that was brighter than the noonday, and her grandmother had never appeared so large or so beautiful. She took the little girl in her arms, and they both flew upwards the brightness and joy, far above the hearth, where there was neither cold or hunger nor pain, for they were where they were in God. In the dawn of morning there lay the poor little one, with pale cheeks and smiling mouth, leaning against the wall. She had been frozen to death on the last evening of the year, and the New Year's sun rose and shone upon a little corpse. The child still sat, in the stiffness of death, holding the matches in her hand, one bundle of which was burned. She tried to warm herself, said some. No one imagined what beautiful thing she had seen, nor into what glory she had entered with her mother on New Year's Day. My hair just cracked. Gosh. Oh my god. Oh, that was a lot. That was a lot. The last thing that we have here is thanks for reading. We are done. Peeps. We finished.